Welcome to Lemoore City Council meeting located at 429 C Street, Lemoore, California. This is the June 27th meeting at 5:30. Special meeting agenda. Please silence all electronic devices as a courtesy to those in attendance. Thank you. Items with a star are redevelopment successor agency items and will be acted upon by the redevelopment successor agency board. If you could stand for the invocation by Chaplain Davis and then continue to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
With bowed heads, oh God, we thank you. We praise you for this day that you've allowed us. And oh God, we ask you, Lord, to bless this meeting, oh God, this council, oh God. Oh God, we ask you, oh God, to allow your will to be done. And oh God, that you be in every situation, in every moment. And oh, we give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you all of the praise. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Lyons. Councilmember Orth.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gornick.
Here.
And Mayor Matthews.
Here.
Thank you.
Agenda approval, additions and or deletions.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. Just one, I would ask consent from council to push my performance evaluation to the next closed session. One, just because I don't know how long we're going to go tonight, and two, the normally assigned city attorney, I'd like her to be present throughout the whole process. So that's just the request. That's your.
I thought that was the plan anyway, to have it in July. That was my understanding anyway, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I
Like,
appreciate it.
good with
No
it.
problem. That's nothing further.
Thank you. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. The public will have the opportunity to comment on items on the agenda once the item has been called, and we open it to the public. Is there any public comment? Seeing none. There are no ceremonial presentation, department and city manager reports.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. Once again, just a few updates. As of last week, we had issues with 3 of our city wells. Well number 4 has been repaired. The electronics is back in operation. Well 11 it's currently going through the testing phase to get that back online, but it's currently pumping at like 12 to 1400 GPM, which is at its designed rate when it was new. So once we get the clearances on the bacterial testings and whatnot back from the state, we'll get that one online. And then we had a premature failure on well 13 out by the college. That one has been pulled, video's been scoped, but we have not yet received the video or the extent of the damage. It could be as simple as a snap shaft. We're not sure. So anyway, good news. We're getting our wells back up, especially in time for these heat waves coming through. And then myself and the mayor attended a League of California Cities, some meetings down south last week. I sit on the taxation and regulations board, and the league's position has been since 2017 that all online sales tax should go to the city where the product is delivered to. So if you order from Amazon, it comes to Lemoore. The league's position has been that the city should get the full 1% sales tax. So that's been their policy and what they've been trying to get through legislation since 17. They spent a lot of money on it with no luck. So they've changed the official function of that. And now we're working cooperatively with the cities that have these distribution centers and tried to find out some kind of a revenue sharing or match. And under the current policy for our city would mean probably about a 10% increase in the county pool of what we would get if it worked out, which would be worth, probably $400,000 potentially to the city. But again, this is just the change in the mindset of the League of California Cities. Instead of going after the whole thing, now we're trying to get everybody to the table and come up with something that works for the host city as well as the delivery cities. Because we have to put up with the truck traffic, people trying to steal packages, PD responding to things like that. So having all those packages delivered does take its toll on the road. So we're trying to get a little bit to help fund that. And then mosquito abatement for Kings County has started flying crop dusters to get mosquito control. Very high year for mosquitoes, as you can imagine, with all the water. So you can do your part and just try to keep standing water out of your yard, out of your flower plant, stuff like that. That'll help you out. But the trap counts throughout the whole county, throughout the whole valley right now are just something like they haven't seen in a long time. So it's going to be a rough year for mosquitoes. So they're spraying and budgets are in place. So that's it on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's it for reports.
Moving on to consent calendar 4-1. Items on the considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless a council member or member of the public requests individual consideration. Approval 4-1, approval authorized agents for California OES. 4-2, approval contract for financial consulting services with Price Page and Company for fiscal year 2023 through 2024. 4-3, approval side letter number 2 between City of Lemoore and the General Association of Service Employees Bargaining Unit for MOU 2022. Is that supposed to be 2022? Okay.
Yes.
4-4, approval side letter number 2 between the City of Lemoore and Lemoore Police Sergeant's Unit for MOU 2022. Approval side letter between the City of Lemoore and the Lemoore Police Officers Association Bargaining Unit for MOU 2022. 4-6, approval side letter number 2 between the City of Lemoore and the Lemoore Police Professional Services Bargaining Unit for MOU 2022. 4-7, approval potential sale of property located on the northwest corner of Highland and D Streets, APN 020-0574-025, located at 309 Highland Street, Antler Hotel. Does anyone from council want to pull anything from the consent calendar?
I have a question about 4-2, and then I have the same question for 4-3 through 4-6.
Okay, so we'll pull those we'll pull those 5 items.
Does
I'd like clarification on 4-7. That's one of my questions.
Anyone from the public want to pull 4-1? All right, I'll
funny.
bring it back to council.
Motion to approve 4-1, 4-1, second.
I have a motion by Orth, second by Lyons. Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Cornick,
Yes,
and I vote yes. 4-2.
One out of the way.
how you doing?
I'm doing well, Mr.
Good.
Morning. Thank you. Good
Just a
morning. Good
question
afternoon.
on the contract. There was a section in there dealt with consulting, and it was a $25,000 figure. And my question was, is it the same hourly rate that they charge us for that 20,000, and how many hours we get out of that?
So for the bulk of their contract, items 1, 2, and 3, we don't get charged by the hour. We get charged the flat rate. So what you see there is the max that we will pay for that. We will pay for that service. The $25,000 is a contingency in case there's a special project that comes up. And in that case, we get like a task order from them and we pay whatever negotiated rate, but we would not exceed 25,000. If we don't have an extra project we need their assistance with, that 25,000 doesn't get spent.
It rolls back. Okay,
Mhm.
good. And the other question has to do with, do we have any idea about what the fiscal impact of those letters are from 4-3 to 4-6?
And I did at the time I brought them to a closed session. I don't know today. It's all built into the budget. I can get that information for you, but I don't have that readily available.
Is it, so So it's a fiscal impact upon our budget. Okay.
Yes, I will say, however, though, that the only thing that changed was adding longevity for 2 of the units. And I believe there's a maximum of 3 people that are eligible in the current fiscal year, so that would be a maximum of $15,000. I could be wrong on my number of people, but I believe it's 3. And then as far as the increased cash out, there was only 1 bargaining unit that got the opportunity to cash out an additional 6 hours of float. Not every employee cashes out float, but it would be paid out at their hourly rate at the time that they choose to cash it out. So it would be a fluctuating value. But I can get you like the max amount, but I
No.
would,
The other point is, so how long can it float?
I'm sorry, how come? Oh, it's a use it or lose it. So it ends at the end of every fiscal year.
Every
So,
fiscal year. Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um,
Okay, so we'll go what we've covered already, and then we'll go to 4-7
Okay.
that you
Yeah.
pulled, sir. So is there a motion to approve, 4-2?
I had one more question on that.
Sure.
The longevity pay. So, if I work for the city 25 years, I'm getting the 25,000?
No, you only get 5,000 at the completion of your 25th year.
Okay, so then it doesn't accumulate, right?
No.
Okay,
No.
that was my question.
And my apologies, I'll open it up to the public for any public comment.
For 4-2 or all.
4-2 through 4-6.
Yes, correct.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Alex Walker. I just had a clarifying question for 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, and 4-6. Are those the new MOUs that were recently negotiated? And is the 2022 for a fiscal year? I'm a little confused with the date.
She's gonna answer that question.
I even wore my tall shoes. Okay, so it does get a little bit confusing, but we had an MOU in that termed for 2022. We took a side letter number 1, back in October of 2021, that extended that MOU through 2025. So that MOU is still active. So you don't modify an MOU by any other methods other than a side letter. So this becomes side letter number 2. So that MOU is still good until June 30th of 2025.
Side letters make sense.
Correct. Or a modification of a term within that MOU.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yes. Michelle, you might as well stay there.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying, just stay there.
Oh, did you have a question?
I don't.
Okay. I'll stay here until the vote concludes. Okay.
Any other public comment?
Let her.
Seeing
sit
none, I'll
down.
bring it back to council.
Let her sit down. Motion to approve 4-2 to 4-6.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Orth and a second by Councilmember Gorth. Councilmember Orth?
Yes.
Gornick, I'm sorry. Councilmember Orth? Yes,
Yes.
I called you
Yes.
Gorth, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Councilmember Gornick?
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyon,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're not. done yet.
4-7.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
Who has 4-7?
I have 4-7. So what
Um,
question do you have?
I read the whole very long part of that. Basically, how I took it, we did something with redevelopment money, so we're part of the agreement that if they sell it, we have to approve the sale.
Yes, because this property was used RDA funding to renovate it back in the day. There's covenants that run with it, so it has to stay low income housing for the next 55 years. So if it doesn't stay in that covenant, then you can be on the hook for some of those fundings. But the buyer has that covenant. It's part of their sale. I checked with the Department of Finance and with the oversight at the Kings County. I think their emails are attached that they require no further action on their behalf. But because RDA funds were used, it requires you sitting as the oversight through the housing authority tonight to approve this sale. We did a sale similar to this, I believe, back in 16 or 17. So this is essentially the same staff report that was reiterated for this term. And there's the interested parties are in the back row here of the, if you have any questions, maybe they could ask that I can't answer, but yeah, this is kind of more of a check in a box so that they can proceed to get this thing finalized.
It's good.
And it helps with our arena numbers.
Well, yeah, could we get credit for those housing? Yes.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council?
So move.
Second.
First, I'll open it up to the public for
my
any
bad.
public comment.
Check it right now. Should be right though.
Yeah, on the
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You're right.
0574. We're missing a 7 in the middle,
2 sevens.
right here.
We'll make a verbal correction right now and have them approve it with the corrected APN. The only paperwork we've done is a staff report, so it's not gonna, the APN on their end isn't gonna be harmed.
So the
Sorry,
number is the number we have on this piece of paper or on the,
Two numbers.
just on our piece of paper.
okay.
We're not actually involved in the sale.
Doesn't matter.
Hey, sorry.
Just looking at the APN number real quick.
Hmm.
In this brief intermission, Stuart is gonna sing for us.
Huh?
So what?
Huh?
Said you're gonna sing for us.
Stuart is gonna sing.
Stewart's
something.
gonna sing something. That's what I
Yeah, you don't want me to sing.
Okay.
we already did that one.
That's-
I don't,
Uh-oh. You sent text out, other people going up?
no, I think just him.
Huh?
I think just him.
Hmm?
I think just him.
Mhm.
I can hear you all the way over here.
What did you say?
You need to clean your ears.
One more second. My apologies.
No worries.
Yeah, I got it right here. I was like, what I sent my original communication.
I think he needs to.
Go to the.
Yeah. I think that's all he's doing is going in and erasing this out.
What was the young lady's name for the oversight? Christina? Yes. So what we need, there's an extra 7, I believe, on the staff report. It should read APN 020-054-025.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
2 sevens. Should be out.
All right. So I will entertain a motion with the corrected APN number.
I motion with the corrected APN.
Second.
I have a motion by Lyons and a second by Gornick. Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
Yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Orth,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Passes.
I told you to stay up there.
Moving on to 5-1, public hearing resolution 2023-18, adopting the budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to July 30th, 2024. Providing for the appropriation and expenditure of all sums set forth in said budget, providing for the transfers and additional appropriations, and repealing all resolutions and parts of resolutions in conflict herewith. Ms. Beer.
Okay. So last Monday, June 19th, I gave a very lengthy presentation and I went over the data that was in this document. As happens every year, things change. I either find errors, the public brings up comments, council asks questions, etc. So a couple of things have changed. So we'll go over those very briefly. The new link was posted in the handout and it is also available to the public. So, Ms. Clerk, how does the public get it?
It's on the website as a handout.
Okay, you can find it on the website as a handout and there will be the link there under the staff report in case anybody watching online or listens later wants to find it. Where do I point this thing? Okay, so a couple things changed and not based on anything we really did. So we get quarterly sales tax reports from our sales tax consultant, HDL. They posted a new quarterly sales tax update that gives us projections for the current fiscal year and the subsequent fiscal year. And so you can see here by this note that in the current fiscal year 23, they're anticipating that we're going to receive approximately $138,000 more than I knew about when I brought this to you last Monday. And then in 24, they're anticipating another 78,000. So in total, they're anticipating another $333 in sales tax for over the next 2 fiscal years. There was a change, not a change in the rule, but the city council, I believe in October 19th of 2021, authorized premium pay for staff as a result of ARPA funds. Well, the final rule said you could use ARPA funds to pay premium pay until the declaration of the emergency ended. Well, the feds ended the declaration of the emergency on April 10th. So the premium pay that is going to be paid out to those employees in the enterprise accounts that would have been reimbursed by ARPA can no longer be reimbursed by ARPA. And so what would have been paid to those enterprise accounts as a reimbursement, which is about 71,000, is now going to be part of that ARPA transfer that goes into the general fund because we can't take that and move that then into the enterprise accounts. So that's going to boost the general fund net position at the end of the year. Subsequently, we received the final budget for our risk management authority. We're part of a large JPA and they just had their meeting last Friday. And so how that resulted was a reduction in our annual costs. And so when we applied that allocation for risk management insurance, it ended up being a reduction of an expenditure by just about $30,500. So your new general fund balance at the end of fiscal year 24, I cannot see that. So let me refer to this book. Is $8,100,219, which is slightly better by about $417,000 than what we brought to you last Monday. So before you saw about a deficit of $731,000 going into next year, we've made that up through increased revenues and decreased expenditures. So now you can see that your deficit for next year is $452,000. It's not a genuine deficit in that we have money in the reserves to pay for it. So you should end at the end of next fiscal year at 8.1 million in the reserves for the general fund. So because of those changes to ARPA and because of those changes to the risk management allocation, there were changes to the other enterprise funds as well. So in the water fund, you're going to see that their deficit increased by $41,934. So their fund balance has changed slightly to end at about 6.0 million. At the last meeting, there was a public question about why there was such a significant increase in expenditures in the water fund from the amended budget in 23 to fiscal year 24. And I asked the gentleman to please be patient and I would bring that data back. So this is that data. So I did an analysis of why those expenditures increased so significantly. The first is that, as I mentioned last Monday, in the past, capital project expenditures didn't live in operating budgets and they do now. So 2.2 million of that is for professional services for CIPs. That is most definitely engineering for public works projects is generally where that comes from. The construction for those projects is another 225,000. We talked last week about the transfer that has to happen from the water fund to the water incident fund for whatever balance is left after we receive our final payment from the insurance. That's that 2.234 that you see there. In utility costs have increased across all funds. But it's resulting in an increase of about $193,000 to the water fund alone next year. And then the SUSP contract, which is the contractor we hired when we outsourced our water operations, their annual increase is $282,000 from 23 to 24. And then there was additional software that we didn't have in the previous fiscal year. There was a slight increase in their requests for services for repair and maintenance of our facilities. So whenever we contract out to like test a well or replace a wellhead, that's where some of that comes from. And then previously, water tank repainting was considered a CIP, but we threw that in the operational budget this year. And whether we had left it as a CIP or posted it here, it still would have shown in the water fund. But that got called out separately this year. So that's the sum total of about 5.3 million. Obviously, some other categories may have decreased, and there might have been some ancillary categories that increased just marginally, but these are the big hitters for the reason why that data changed. Okay.
Michelle.
Yes,
Can I ask a
sir.
question?
Mhm.
The increase to SUSP contract this year is $282,000.
Yeah, I don't have that contract with me, but I believe it was a 5-year contract that was authorized by council, and fiscal year 23 was the first year, and it was roughly 1.48 something, and it went up to 1.5 and some change.
I want to make sure I heard you right.
Yeah.
That's it. Now my headache can go away now.
The wastewater fund, similar situation. ARPA changed, risk management changed. So they have a decreased fund balance here of about $53,441. So their fund balance at the end of next fiscal year is anticipated to be 3.1 million. Refuse, same story, a decrease because of ARPA and risk management. So their fund balance is going to be 2.1 million. And fleet, this one, same story, but what last Monday when I was here, I was like, oh, they're going to make up some of that. So they're going to end the year about 6,000 to the positive or whatever that number was. Now, because of those changes, they're going to end up with a little bit of a loss. I think that says 4.3 million. Sorry, my eyes are bad. But keep in mind, fleet is one of those funds where you don't know how much it's going to cost until the thing happens. It really depends on how much maintenance is needed for those vehicles. So this number, like all the numbers, could change, but this number here has a lot more fluctuations than some of this other data that I've given you because their revenues are 100% generated by the services they provide to the other departments. So if we're lucky enough not to have as many accidents next year and not need as much maintenance on our vehicles, then these numbers will shift pretty drastically. Oh, the end. Okay, so do I have
It's not
any-
the end.
It's the end of my presentation. So do I have any questions from council that I can help answer?
So it looks like you went back and sharpened your pencil a little bit.
A little. Mhm.
So so in the general fund, I'm speaking of, so we went from 700 and some change down to 400 and some change.
Correct, because of data that came in after Monday.
Right. So so I guess you're submitting that there's no way we can get that other 400,000 to come in balanced.
There's always a way. This is the conversation we had last Monday, that if council wants to be part of that strategy on how to balance the budget, we will not have a budget ready by July 1st, because that's going to take some analysis. I mean, I've done the numbers, I can balance the budget, but it's going to require that no department except fire and police gets training next year. That means council doesn't go to League of California Cities. That means staff doesn't attend other trainings. We'd have to eliminate the employee homebuyer program. We would have to leave positions that are currently vacant in the general fund and leave them vacant. It
What would
would,
that number be?
if we left them vacant, about $289,000. But I just want to preface that with a statement that some of these departments that are running without employees have been running at 50% of their staffing levels for a significant amount of time. And there's a lot of burnout happening in those departments. And I think it's only fair to say on behalf of the employees that if we held those positions vacant and didn't fund them, we're likely to see some employee loss in those departments because they're already working much harder than they should in those roles.
So they're already vacant now, and we've had those positions open for a while.
Yeah, we're actively recruiting for them now. If I'm being honest, we have gone through about a list and it's difficult to find people that are passing our backgrounds, but it's not from a lack of trying.
On our behalf,
What
trying
is,
on our behalf, or we just can't get people that qualify?
we get people that
background?
qualify. We've been through, I believe, 1 or 2 rounds of interviews. We get to where we offer them a job, we put them through the background and then they fail. And so we're having to continue that process, but the
Thank you for failing
need,
them because
the need is significant. So I want to put that out there because yes, that's a substantial amount of money, but it's going to come on the backs of the employees that are currently holding those roles.
And just for clarification, those positions are budgeted as we have persons in positions July 1. So
Correct.
you're probably looking at a minimum of 2 to 3 months to fill those. So you could take probably 25% of that number she gave you and it's going to come back as
Yeah,
favorability.
there will be some salary savings there just due to the length of time it takes to hire persons and get them through the process and get them a start date and get them onboarded. The other thing is there's a couple of other like little minute line items that we can take out of budgets, but it would result in not having educational materials for the youth of this community. So the fire department and the police department do materials for outreach and things of that nature. And so those could be eliminated. But again, I understand council's desire to have a balanced budget, but balancing this year doesn't solve the greater problem, which is next year's problem that we talked about last Monday. Because some of that is just one-time savings.
Yeah, that's correct. That's why I'm concerned about it.
Right.
So, I think I asked the city manager a question about what's a furlough? What's a furlough day cost us?
So we
For all-
haven't actually had a chance to run that analysis yet. I did get some feedback from legal that furloughs would require negotiation, not just for the effects, but actually the ability to furlough in general. And so we would need direction from this council on how many days, like, are you talking about every employee? There's a lot of different parameters that go into that furlough program for me to get you a number. So again, my recommendation is to adopt the budget as is. And then if we have things that we want to do in the future, we can talk about those for future budget deficits. One thing I think it's important to mention is I can do this, but if I don't have a budget approved in order to load into the new system by July 1st, I don't have a budget to work off of in the new system on July 1st. And so I can't load this budget into our legacy system because the entire chart of accounts changed. So none of these numbers match our existing system. I can load a proposed budget. I'll tell you that right now. But any modifications we make to that proposed budget, if we do a continuing budget resolution, is going to require infinitely more work to move it to the adopted version in order to do that in the existing, well, what will be our new system as of Monday.
I have a lot of empathy for what you have to do to come to get a balanced budget. And to get it as close as you can to balanced. I certainly understand that and I appreciate it. I'd like you to understand that from my point of view as a council member, I get presented a budget a month before it's supposed to be approved. Okay. Having no updates during the year about where we might be. And I'm asked to approve it so that we can solve it for next year.
Right, no, I understand.
And I would like
We.
to set as we, thank you. I just didn't want to speak for.
You can speak.
Okay, but my point is, I'd like to work with you so that we resolve it. I don't think Lemoore deserves deficit budgets. Okay, and I think the citizens need to know the kind of financial condition we're in and the sacrifices we might have to make to get balanced. But without any dialogue, nobody knows it. We just keep kicking the can down the road. So that's where I'm coming from with it.
And I appreciate your position and this is not me arguing with you. I agree with you. At the conclusion of last Monday's meeting, there was a discussion about the amount of work it takes to kind of have those conversations and do it with realistic data. And the fact that that wasn't something I was going to be able to present to this council by July 1. And so I expressed my position before that it's my hope that we adopt this, not trying to kick the can down the road. We recognize there's a significant problem we need to solve. But solving for 452,000 is not the same as solving for 3.8 million, which is looking like next year's problem. And that's going to take a significant amount of work, just not just my time, but staff's time and the city manager's time. And we want to come to you with a comprehensive discussion. And there was no way I was going to be prepared to do that by tonight. So my understanding was that this is what we were looking for tonight. And that the general consensus was that we would come back in about a month and have that bigger conversation. So forgive me if I misunderstood what the direction was last Monday, but that's how I understood coming into tonight.
So can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Okay. I too can only speak for myself, but I think all of us in this room feel the same way, including you. My question is this, and this is a two-part what if. What if we do pass this budget as the way it's written? All the heartburn with it and everything. What could we do where we lock it down in the next 20, 30 minutes of a conversation that we can all have to where we're going to say, on this date, we're going to come back and we're going to sit down in a room, lock the doors, buy some pizza, do whatever, and we're going to figure this out. And it could be a month from now. It could be 2 months from now. Whenever you and your staff need to have that meeting, whether it has to be in public, I'll do it here with the pizza in my hand, to look at going forward. I want to lock down a date where we say, you know what, and I'm just making up a number, August 15th, August 20th, August 30th. We're going to sit in a room. We're going to talk about this to where we don't have these conversations. I've sat in a room with you. I don't like what you and your staff go through at all. I don't like what the uncertainty of all of our employees and everything else that goes along with. I don't like it. But I also feel that I have a fiducial, we all do in this room, have a fiducial responsibility to be careful with what we do. Do I want to get rid of the things you mentioned? No, our children are our future. But at the end of the day, if we can't afford that, we can't afford it. It's just like at home. If we can't afford to go to dinner, we don't go to dinner. I would like, and I'm going to ask for the 5 of us to come up to understand through Nathan, if we can figure this out. I don't know how it's done. I don't know if the lawyer is going to have to tell us how to do this, but I'd like to see get head nods or something to pick a date where we sit down and we say, you know what, we'll give you this, but we want to sit down and we want to do this. If it's monthly, if it's every quarter, where we sit down to where we don't have the 1 week, 2 weeks to sit there and now have to make a decision for our children and our grandchildren and everybody else to say, you know what, this is going to suck, but we have to do X, Y, Z. I don't want to do none of the X, Y, Z's. I don't want to furlough nobody. But I also want a hard number. This is the date we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to do it.
So my understanding was that that was the plan as of last Monday, that was, the city manager had talked to council and said that at some point in the future, we're coming to you with some options to try to balance this in the future.
Okay, I must have missed that part of the conversation.
And so I think that's a fabulous idea. If the 5 of you are going to participate, it has to be open to the public, and I would welcome them to participate. It's going to involve them. Yes, sir.
Well, just a little different. You guys, I already talked, you guys talk. I don't know. Say something.
Go ahead.
You guys had with.
Did I miss something?
No, so,
Oh, okay.
so that's the intent, and it always has been the intent to come back and do study sessions and talk about options. But we do have a go live on many modules that basically all the finance and HR staff is the implementation team. So that being said, when do you think we'll get back to this
Wow.
after the implementation? Are we talking maybe August to come back?
I
to
would
council?
say, and I understand this is painful to council, but I would say late August, if I'm being fair, to give staff a chance to go through the data and strategize about some solutions, because we have
Well,
some
don't put yourself in
implementation.
a bind. If August doesn't work.
Yeah.
September works.
September,
And-
October is
and
fine.
I don't want you.
Well,
It is
okay,
time critical.
we're on a time crunch and I don't think I want to push, I appreciate that statement. I don't want to wait until October. July,
I don't want October either.
July is not really going to be feasible if I'm being honest, like
No,
there's just
that's
too much
fine.
moving. But I mean, I think that, the second meeting in August, or maybe, I honestly think this is a special meeting, if I'm going to be honest. I think this is
100%
something we need to
special
dedicate our
meeting.
time to. I think late August is doable. I think we all need to go into it with the understanding that there are going to be multiple minds in the room with multiple different opinions, and that this is probably going to take more than one meeting, right? Like, we're going to have to come up with a strategy.
Yeah.
But I think to say that we can come late August with some data for you all, we can spitball some ideas and you guys can do the same, and the public can certainly be involved. I think late August is reasonable. But now I think I've just given a date for the city manager as
Yeah.
well. But to me, that seems like a reasonable
August
timeframe.
29th at 5:30.
But hold that thought. My thing is not for you to solve all the city of Lemoore's
And,
problems.
no, I
August
understand that.
29th.
But you're
I-
gonna
I
ask
just-
me numbers and
No,
I'm
no,
gonna need
I
to
eat
be
a
ready.
steak one bite at a time. Let's pick one thing. This may take six, my plan, this may take 6 of these meetings. It may take 10.
God, no.
I don't want it to. I don't want it to, but you know what? This may take more than one.
I think I hear what you're saying. Like, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to solve this problem. And Mr. Gornick, I recognize that this came to you late. And I had a plan going into this that you guys were going to have this budget in May, because I needed June to focus on implementation. But migrating between softwares, having your chart of accounts change on you, not being able to work in the system that you're moving to, it took far longer than my normally pessimistic brain thought that it would take to finish that project. So I take responsibility for it not coming to you until June. And yes, my goal is in the future that we will do this earlier. You also asked at the last meeting for quarterly updates, which I'm happy to give you. The current software doesn't really give me the tools to do that. So hopefully the new software will provide me with that data more readily so that I can do that more frequently.
Well, I approach this just a little differently, and that is, we've got a city manager and we've got you to come to bring solutions to this problem of $3.8 million. I do not want to spend 5 or 6 meetings micromanaging the budget. But I do want to have everything on the table, everything from furloughs to tax increases. Okay. And I want it to be a balanced conversation. And it's up to us to give you some guidance as to what we think would be the best thing to do. But
And
at the end of the day, it's got to be balanced.
And I can tell you that is our plan. That we were working long before last Monday's meeting on some of those strategies as well. But as you know, all of that data takes time. And so I apologize for the timing of all that. But yes,
No
I
apologies
think
necessary.
late August is doable. Mr. City Manager, do you agree? Or we can bring some solid solutions to you all.
I agree with my council members here. I don't think, you tell us when you're ready to go. I think certainly we don't want to wait till the middle of the year, but
No, I think late August is probably a good time frame for us to bring you our first pass. So allow you guys to provide feedback, because I can certainly, know that you all are going to have opinions and things you want us to research beyond that. And I think that sets us up for an appropriate time frame for some of the things we want to bring to you.
And Frank, I don't want to do 6 of these. I really don't. I really don't want to do 6 of these.
Then maybe.
But
don't
we can't
state your
afford
plan
pizza
is to
6
have
times.
6 of these.
Well, my thing is whatever it takes.
Right.
Because if for whatever reason we get on something and we have to pause and go, we may have to, but I don't, that's my,
Well, I'd like
that's
to
what I would like.
invite the
done.
unions to these meetings too.
They're always invited, but we will make sure that they are in,
I'm sure
that
the will interest them.
that I will reach out to them personally and tell them.
That's what I would like to put forward. Now, I don't know if we could get everyone to nod their head and agree to that, or.
Well, we still need to open up to public.
Go ahead, we can open
Actually,
that
I
up.
need to open the public
Well,
hearing.
I just wanted to comment also that, I appreciate, within the week, you came, with $300,000 less, right, on our budget or whatever it was, from 700 to 400. So good work. I want to, and so I think if we do get our minds together, we can get the zero budget.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I just want you to know, I wasn't hiding that 300. Like, that data came to me after Monday.
Oh, we know.
It's not like I hid it in my pocket knowing you were going to ask for it. And I was like, bam. Like, that's not how that works.
And Michelle, I think I can speak for both. We know you guys work tirelessly. I've seen it on your face too many times to know that you guys work too hard. And I agree. And I know you didn't just have that high, and you guys did hard work, and that's great. That's awesome. $300,000 is a lot of money to find. I just wish I could find it in my checking account, but that's a different story.
You and me both.
Careful. Yeah, and I'm new to this, so you know, I wasn't comfortable with the 700, but you know, I'm a little more comfortable with the 400. And with the conversation that we're having and that, you know, we are gonna fix it and get to the zero, then I'm all for it too.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there any public comment?
Of course, Alex is gonna say something.
I have a lot.
Turn the timer on.
No, that's not how this works. So thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council, Alex Walker. So I wanted to open by just echoing my thoughts from last week. The atmosphere is exceptional, and I just really truly hate the work that she put into it, that the city manager put into this, and all city staff. Really appreciate it. I also really appreciate council's driven focus in addressing this issue. I wanted to ask a couple clarifying questions before I give my overall comments, and I just want to clarify on the values that are in the budget. Just to clarify again, the amount that's the deficit is paid off by the reserves, and the reserve number we're seeing is what's remained after we're paying the deficit.
Correct.
Okay. And then, and please correct me if I misheard you, but I think you said something to the effect of if council wants to be in the process about making these decisions, it'll take time. I was hoping if there can be some clarification of what is the budget making process? Does council sit down with the city manager's office and establish goals and priorities? Like, who ultimately sets the budget cutting and increasing decisions?
So, yeah, so staff brings the budget to council for approval. And it's ultimately council's role is to approve an annual budget and to set policy. So a lot of the numbers are coming from us, and then we present the budget, we have the hearings, we get the feedback, then we go back and make the adjustments, and then we bring a final budget forth.
So before the hearings, before last week and before tonight, was the city council met with personally to talk about the budget, to readjust some priorities, or?
Only once, and it wasn't to develop the budget. It was the first pass numbers, or actually the second pass numbers I got from Michelle when they were getting more realistic. Because had I met with council the very first batch numbers, it would have been about $2.5 million the wrong way. So as soon as I had what we consider credible information from everything coming in and getting all the work done in the background, I did meet with council once, but it wasn't to develop budget. It was to kind of tell them what type of deficit they were looking at for this year. And then to outline, I believe I had like 13 or 14 steps of ways to generate some additional revenues potentially next year. And then we talked about some other ideas that we did agree that we would bring back in study session in the future.
And was this year's timeline unique because we're transitioning to new software and new technology, or in prior years, is that usually how the budget process goes, that you'll meet a month or two before just to kind of take a look at it, and then when public hearings begin, that's when we actually get the nitty gritty done?
Every year's unique.
That's a true statement right there.
1 year you have COVID, 1 year you have this, 1 year you have a water tank explode, 1 year, I mean, come on, every year is very unique.
Okay, so Councilmember Lyons is correct, except that our internal timeline stays the same almost every year. So we start our budget process in January, and just to kind of follow up on what the city manager was saying, the city manager is tasked with daily operations of the city, right? So many of these decisions, or like the preliminary cuts that we make, are based on operational need, right? So we come to council with the budget once Nathan and I have discussed what the true operational need is, right? And so that's why we do the internal process first before we bring it to council. And so our internal process stays the same. However, Councilmember Lyons is not wrong. Every year there's a thing that's different than the year before that kind of changes the dynamic. This year it was a timing issue as well as just the fact that everything is more expensive.
And the reason I ask, and I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth, but from the other side of the dais, I just get the sense that there's a lack of communication. I'm not saying that is the case. I would just advocate and expect, because your office is professional staff, they do amazing work, and I really appreciate the results that were brought today and the budget that's brought today. I do advocate for its passage. However, I feel like there's a lack of communication between the council members and the office in that process of crafting the budget. And I feel like going forward, because that's what we can do, we can always go forward. There should be more communication there. And I highly advocate town halls and public hearings beforehand so we can get public comment and more opportunities for the public to participate. Because in previous meetings, we've acknowledged the fact that not everyone has the time to come to city council regularly to participate in those conversations, just so we can allow for more public feedback and better understanding of the budget making process. And then the last question I have before I go into my remaining comments is, if the budget is not adopted today and council approves the continuing resolution, which is set to expire on the 18th, if we still do not reach a consensus, is that resolution continued?
So the continuing resolution draft that's in there is legitimately just a draft. We can set the continuing resolution for any duration of time up to the passage of the adopted budget. Does that answer your
Yes, it
question?
does. Thank
Okay.
you. And then my understanding, other than if we pass a continuing resolution, is that the budget is expected to be passed by July 1st. What is the date that the budget legally has to be passed? Okay, that's what I thought.
You have to have a budget
Mhm.
for your fiscal year.
Gotcha.
In this case,
Okay, I'm sorry.
You have to have a budget by July 1. A continuing budget resolution just takes your previous budget and says, use it in its place, essentially, with whatever rules council sets forward. So that meets the litmus test.
So essentially, the continuing resolution is just passing a skinny budget.
Yeah, a budget of whatever they want it to look like.
Gotcha.
But-
So,
But the new budget, you have until the state allows you to have that final. The state allows you to have that final budget approved no later than what's your date?
You know, honestly, it's never happened to me. I don't know. I know that there have been some other municipal agencies that have continued under continuing budget resolution until like April of that fiscal year. I do not recommend that. I don't know if it's legal. The county always adopts by September 30th. I don't know, Mr. Attorney, do you know the date?
I don't believe there's a hard and fast date. I think it's that you're
As long as
required
you
to have,
continuing
you're required to have a
resolution.
budget in place. And so by passing the continuing budget resolution, you're effectively continuing under the same budget. So you are
Right,
providing an extension.
I just didn't want to create the impression that we were some way violating the law. We're not.
Oh, no. That wasn't
We
what the.
pass a continue, we continue on that budget until we decide on what the final budget looks like.
and then that concludes my questions, but I did have some comments I wanted to advocate for tonight. And thank you for the clarifications. It was very insightful. I do want to advocate for the passage of the fiscal year 2024 budget as currently proposed. I fully support council's efforts to find a balanced budget. But with my understanding of the facts before us, I believe it is the best course of action for our city to pass the budget as presented to provide stability, ensure ongoing essential projects are funded, while the city council, city manager, and staff work together to develop a comprehensive strategy to pay off the existing debt and explore revenue options for the future financial health of our town. I also wanted to advocate that the city council call a special study session meeting or town hall to seek public comments to review and develop long-term strategy to make a vibrant, resilient economy in Lemoore and to ensure the longevity and solvency of our city. I also wanted to advocate, as I mentioned before, reviewing and seeking public comment on the budget earlier before the end of the fiscal year, as other municipalities do, because I greatly appreciate the work and effort of our city and our staff. But we have acknowledged a lack of participation. I feel like more participation will help us set those goals and understand the priorities for our city. And for the long-term longevity of Lemoore, we have to have a full comprehensive understanding of our economic situation. And in those special meetings, I would advocate that we explore a rate study for our services, a wage study for our employees to ensure that we are paying a competitive market wage, and an overall examination of our reserves and revenue sources to not only close this year's gap, but to build a strong, resilient economy for a solvent, prospering Lemoore. I yield my time back to the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, esteemed members of the council, Christopher Bright. I will try not to be too loquacious, although I have been told I'm wordy in the past. So with the budget that we're talking about, I believe last week it was discussed that if a continuing resolution was what's passed, there are some things that the city manager and Ms. Spears have been trying to parse through, or that they have to bring up in the future, but those are all going to be put on hold if we have to do a continuing resolution as opposed to passing the budget tonight. Also with that, we can still pass the budget and look at a budget amendment in the future if that's the way that the council wants to go after examining ways to potentially cut the budget. Some of those things might right the ship faster than others. Some of them might be, this is a big tanker of a project. And sometimes you only need to do 1 or 2 degrees to get your course way adjusted good or way adjusted bad. And some of them are cultural shifts, as was discussed last week with the roads, talking about bike paths and whatnot. Some of them might end up being almost a generational issue to get to a surplus every year. I don't know. I look forward to the workshops, the budget workshops. I will be here with bells on. And as far as discussing all the potential options to become solvent or reach zero negative numbers on a budget, you said you wanted to discuss all things. Does that include densification? Or do we want to continue being a suburb, because that is drying up a lot of resources for not just Lemoore, but all municipalities that decided to build that way? Just some food for thought, and I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tom Reed, 4 Avenue, Lemoore. Mayor Matthews, council member, city manager. At the previous council meeting, I suggested that it would be appropriate to pass the 23-24 budget as presented. I felt and still do that making any significant changes made within a rush time frame would likely need to be done over. Having said that, all members of this council, with the exception of Mr. Garza, have been through this process at least one time and have not seemed to have any reservations about approving a budget that includes more expenditures than revenues, with the expectation that expenditures would equal revenue by year's end. City staff works at the direction of the city council. It is incumbent upon the council to give specific direction to the city staff about what is expected prior to the beginning of any process. In other words, don't change horses in midstream. To city staff, I would say that if you expect to match expenditures with revenue by year's end, you must have some idea of the area or areas where accommodation can be made to make the two equal. That being the case, would it not be just as easy to factor those items into the budget so that we can begin with a balanced budget? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Bring it back to council.
I just have a request for the PowerPoint that you went over
Mhm.
tonight. Can you email that to me or to the council?
Yeah, it will be posted publicly as well. But
Okay,
I
thank
can have the clerk send it out.
Mayor, were you closing the public comment portion? The
Yes,
Public hearing portion, I should say.
so we'll close the public hearing now. Council? Cricket.
Motion to approve?
Second it.
Have a motion to approve. Is that with the contingency that we will have the workshops
Yeah.
coming
Oh,
up
yeah.
in?
Well, all the discussion and guidance that we gave, I'm sure the city manager and
Is that clear enough
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
for the,
That
for
good?
a motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, did we pick a date?
Yeah,
Or we
the
can-
29th of August.
Councilmember Lyons did.
I only picked it because there's 5 Tuesdays in that month
whatever.
and it's the 5th.
Oh,
Tuesday.
you're taking my 5th free Tuesday?
Oh, got you, sucker. And I like 5:30 start times. It allows me to make fire. So
You did that on purpose.
I'm good with that.
Okay,
And you said the end of August. That was
Are you
your
good
word.
with that? Well, let's make sure we're all good. Are you good, Patty?
Mhm.
Mayor, Madam?
How about Nathan, you good with that or is that too soon?
No, I think we're good with it. And if
Mhm.
things work out, you know,
I know he's good with that.
that'll be at the latest. Let's put it that way. That'll be our latest.
No, I think they're setting the date.
No, I know, but I'm saying that'll be the latest. If we're ready to come in September at some point, which I'm not saying we will
September?
be.
September's after.
August is
Or,
before.
sorry. Oh, August, yeah, August will be the earliest.
Okay,
we can get to.
Yeah, I
My
wouldn't
bad.
be
I
able
was
to do the
thinking- I was
second.
thinking month around.
Top of the city manager's office, we concur with
Are
August.
you good with the 29th?
The 29th I am, but the
you
other.
don't have a
no.
board.
29th it is.
I have
Okay,
board
there you
meeting
go.
on the
We
second.
won't bring it earlier than that.
Okay,
Tuesday.
okay, so
Does that give you
That-
enough time?
that motion
Yeah.
and second still
Yeah,
good.
still there.
Okay,
Still there?
so I have a motion by Councilmember Lyons and a second by Councilmember Gornick. Councilmember Lyons, Councilmember Gornick.
Aye.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Orr,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you.
Moving
will
on,
sleep
thank you
tonight.
so much.
Thank you for all your hard work. And
Moving on
tears.
to new business,
I know.
6-1, approval resolution 2023-19, authorizing a continued budget resolution to commence on, oh wait, we can scrap. it.
Motion to deny that one.
Sorry. 6-2, approval resolution 2023-20, intention to levy and collect the annual assessments with landscape and lighting maintenance district number 1, LLMD, loans zones 1 through 13, and resolution 2023-21, intention to levy and collect the annual assessments within public facilities maintenance district number 1, PFMD, zones 1 through 10. Mr. Reader.
Good evening, council. My name is Randy Reader, staff or management analyst for Public Works. So these are the annual assessments that go for the PFMDs and LLMDs, the lighting and landscape maintenance districts, as well as the public facilities maintenance district. And so this is the annual assessment that gets done to the property tax for those different districts. It's mostly a routine thing. Was there any questions or anything on these? Anything specifically that you guys would like me to go over in these reports? I don't think the reports were attached, but they will be as a handout after the meeting.
What notification do we give the citizens in these areas?
This goes out on their property taxes. So, I mean, these are the more notifications, but it's also something that's notified to them when they buy the house. It's part of that.
Well, I realize it when they buy the house, but I'm talking about when we talk about increasing these, we give them a prior notice when it's gonna occur.
Now goes out is the whatever notice we're required to do the public hearings. And we do several readings of the.
Yeah, so there will be 2 readings of this. This is just the intent. Increases happen based on the methodology inside of here. So that's going to be based off of projects, maintenance, anything of that sort. There are usually not any dramatic increases on these. So it's not something that we notice to them. If there was going to be a change in the methodology, for example, if we were going to take the LLMDs and try to convert them into PFMDs or anything of that sort, there would be notices of that and a process there. But as far as just the annual notice, this would be the annual notice of what they're going to be charged.
In council on the LLMDs, none of the LLMDs, they're all at their max and they can't be increased without a vote of the people that own those parcels. With the exception, I believe, of zone 8A and AB, that does, I think, have an inflator that is the CPI index. So, and kind of the same thing with the PFMDs, they're limited to how much they can go up, but it takes the engineer's report. Not having these assessments passed, when that would do then is if for some reason we opted not to do this, then the general fund would become responsible for funding the maintenance in these areas instead of on the tax roll.
So she's pulling it up here right now. So which one of these don't have the inflator or?
For LLMDs, all of them except for zone 12.
Zone 12. Okay.
Correct.
All right. They don't have the
They're
inflator.
maxed out.
Okay.
Do we give them an opportunity to, can we give them an opportunity to add an inflator?
We absolutely can, and we have attempted that in the past. It is a very expensive process that comes out of the general fund for that. And in the past, it was a failure. So it's something that we have to really analyze the risk reward on that with a assumption it's going to fail. For some of these, like if you look at the LLMDs, zone one, which is, or well, I'll look at zone 3 and 5, it's $55 and $62 for last year.
Mhm.
And that is, they're maxed out, so that's not going up. But when you look at the PFMD zones, they're all 500 plus. So you're going to be taking something to residents, telling them that their property tax is going to increase approximately 450 or 500. And that's a tough sell.
So just out of curiosity, we've had these votes before, right, Nathan?
Correct. And there,
And how badly did they fail? Just out of, if you can remember, I don't know.
so we've done one LLMD as it was established, and that's when I came to the city, and that was in between public works directors when phase 2 out on Golf Links area was put in. They did not annex in the 73 homes into that area, which included the park and things like that. So we were successful in taking that zone and getting the people to vote that park in. That's the only time and one is passed. Zone 1 in the LLMDs is basically the area between Hanford, Armona Road and Cinnamon and Liberty to Lemoore Avenue. Their annual assessment, I believe, is 125 or 135. That's been maxed out for 20 years. There's no way to increase it. We have gone to that district multiple times, and every time we go to vote, it costs the district, not the general fund, but the district. I believe that zone is in excess of $10,000. So that comes out of the budget and what we can maintain for that year. And every year it fails grotesquely. Because it's a 50+1 vote by the people that live there. And anytime past Frank may have been, nobody's been here a lot longer, but they just haven't passed for the landscaping.
And I can give you the exact results and go back and see, it was way before my time, but I can pull that. But the last I heard from our engineer, it was an overwhelming loss.
Yeah, that's just what I remember, but I've never really heard the actual number.
One thing we're doing moving forward, so we already switched to no more LMDs. PFMDs are more inclusive, and you can keep the inflators going, and that's why those neighborhoods and roads are always going to look better. But new housings after all this that we have coming up will be part of a CFD, Community Facilities District, and that'll look more like a PFMD, but we're trying to add a safety component for police and fire as well. And then the beauty on the CFD is once you create one, they can be islands and they just all grow into the same one. So the purpose is growing out the city then would be
So that way you don't end up with
CFD.
12 LLMDs. You just
Right,
end
you
up
have
with
one
big
yes.
CFD.
And that's kind of what we're looking at and moving towards. And I know Randon's working on the ordinance changes we bring into this.
Most likely,
this council.
I'm hoping July 19th, there'll be a reading for that ordinance to make a change.
So how about strategically out by the college with those in our project? That's
They're PFMDs.
Can we change that?
Why? To CFDs?
I might be a little late, because they signed those papers a while ago. We could ask. I don't think we can force them, but that's something we could look into. But if they don't get into the CFD, the PFMDs that are there are solid and they have annual inflators, so you won't run out of funding or have a lack of funding 20 years from now, like we're seeing now in all the LLMDs that were set up in
do we
late
need
80s.
do we need to put something in our regs to make sure that on the west side, that's all that whoever builds out there is going to have to use that?
Yeah, well, we do that as a condition when they come in, because basically when the developer has it, they're one vote for the whole property. So that's when we get them coming in. So they agree to that as part of building that. They agree to get into our PFMD, and now we'll be requiring them to get into a CFD.
But I think that's a great idea. And that's like, I don't know about anyone else. The first time I heard of we could actually do that. I think that's a
It should be standard.
very, very, very smart idea. And so what I would like to look at doing is everyone we've done in the last 6 months, if we can change that. I don't know if that's a costly thing.
It is a costly, it's going back to the ballots and the engineer's time to create those ballots. And then there is some discussions that we would have to do.
Well, like for the Granville project, that's not.
Yeah, sorry to interject. We're getting a little off topic. My recommendation, only because there hasn't been an agendized item in relation to transitioning these, would be to put it on a future agenda so that if the public wants to participate in that discussion, they can.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that, but let me just ask this question. How about Granville? What are they on?
Granville is one of the last PFMDs. So the new daily homes and or did we get Granville to switch?
Which track?
By well 11.
The new ones out there.
No, they're
no
PFMD.
homes out there.
Lacy Ranch?
They're gonna be PFMDs.
Okay, and then the new daily homes, we're looking to go CFD, and there's some houses wanting to go in on the east side of town. We're trying to put in as a CFD.
Sorry, when you say developer, I go everything off track. That's how I track everything. So when you start throwing out developers,
On 18th, all the way out there.
Yeah.
Lacy Ranch.
Lacy
They're
Ranch.
PFMD.
Lacy Ranch. So Lacy Ranch is gonna be he requested a CFD actually. So that one I think we're early enough in the process. We might be
Oh,
able
we
to.
did get that one in?
So for your Lacy Ranch,
Mhm.
so he prefers a CFD.
Oh, good.
So we're
Yeah,
gonna
first one.
be making a change, and that one's so far out that I can make that change and
Yeah, I was just
Go
gonna say,
through
there's
it.
nothing there, so.
it's usually after the subdivision agreement when we bring the final map where that's approved in the agreement where it makes it a little bit more difficult to change. But for those, we're still pretty far out, so it should be a change
Yeah.
that we can do.
That's good.
Any
like
other
that.
questions on 6-2?
Any questions on the actual assessments that are currently happening?
I thought that's what we were talking.
Any other from council? Seeing none, I'll open up to the public. Mr. Walker?
Surprise, surprise.
Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to clarify. So if we approve this item tonight, it's to initiate the process that there will be a public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. And then I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with the map, so if I'm asking an obvious question, I apologize, but each of the colors are a different zone, correct?
Correct.
Where's 2 and 4?
And then what's represented as a CFD?
CFDs are not represented and not part of the conversation.
Okay, so we're looking at PFP.
What you
Too
see,
many
on the-
acronyms.
yeah, what you see right now is a lighting and landscape maintenance
Okay,
district.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other public comment? Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Christopher Bright again. I'm just gonna assume that these are all of our lighting and maintenance districts and all of Lemoore's PFMDs, correct? Or are there more that are not part of this assessment?
No, these are all of them. So the two maps you see here, these are the map that's currently up right now. That is all the LLMDs. And then there's another map similar that has all the PFMDs on it, but these are all of them in the whole city.
No problem. I was just making sure that we weren't bringing like 14 through X at a later date. Okay.
No, this is done annually because they require an engineer's estimate of what the cost is to maintain these properties based on the square footage of green or beltway, grass, shrubs, trees, things like that, the utilities, and then we're required to get it into the county for the tax roll about before a certain date so they can collect those funds that should be transferred to the city timely.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Being none, I'll bring it back to council.
Motion to approve 6-2.
I have a motion by Councilmember Orr,
Second,
second by Councilmember Gornick. Councilmember Orr,
Yes.
Councilmember Gornick,
yes.
Councilmember Garza,
Yes.
Councilmember Lyons,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
Thank you.
Moving on to city council reports and requests. Councilmember Garza.
Okay, I just wanted to address my hesitation to vote yes for the proposed budget. And the only reason is, I just feel we need to be strategic. You know, we set a date, August 29th, but let's have a strategy for that. You know, we need information that we're gonna go into this meeting with. Some parameters need to be set. And I think we probably need some type of an area to focus on that we're gonna go to this meeting. That's just my opinion, and that's it. That's all I have tonight.
Councilmember Lyons.
I've got nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Orth.
I too agree with you. So we can not spin our wheels and spend hours up here and not get something done. Not that we would do that, but I had the opportunity to go to Rocking the Arbor and I was the videographer for the mayor cutting a ribbon for a taco catering.
I didn't cut the ribbon. I
Oh,
held the scissors.
Yeah.
They trust
So-
me with scissors.
There was a lot of people out there. There was a lot of people. It was
Lots.
very, very nice. It was beautiful weather. I'm sad to see that it's the last one, but
Maybe next year.
maybe good. And other than that, I want to thank everybody for all the hard work they took and all the sleepless nights maybe of worrying about what we're gonna do as a council and everybody. But I want everyone to know on my behalf, all I want is us to go forward, be very good stewards of our income and our expenditures, and have a safe neighborhood, safe city. Sometimes that hurts, I know. With that said, thank you. Have a good weekend and stay inside because it's gonna be hot.
Councilmember Warnick.
I can't remember the name of the gentleman who collects the trash in our area, but on Thursday morning, I was awakened by the garbage truck. And I got panicked because
You forgot.
I thought it was gonna be Friday. And so I got downstairs, ran out. He was around the corner, hustled around, knocked on it while he was waiting, looked at me like, what are you doing, crazy man? I said, hey, could you come and get my blue can? He goes, oh, yeah, I'll get you on the way back. I said, perfect, thank you. So just that kind of service that our employees get. I appreciated it greatly.
Just got him in trouble.
Yeah, yes, exactly right, exactly. No, that's it.
All right. So I too attended the League of California Cities Policy Committees. Mine is Transportation, Communication, and Public Works. We didn't have anything as far as the taxation and revenues portion. We're still at, we support things, we support with amendments, or we're opposed. So we didn't have anything, we didn't vote on anything there at the just got updates basically. So lots of stuff coming down there. I agree, Rock in the Arbor was hugely attended. I think it's the biggest crowd I've ever seen at a Rock in the Arbor, so that was pretty cool to see. Just want to point out, coming up in August, on August 5th, Lemoore Police Department is having a car show. So if anybody has any cool cars that you want to enter in that, contact the police department and get in on that. So it's a local car show, and I think it's going to be a big deal and huge. So if you know anybody that has anything cool that they want to enter, send them to the police department. So also want to say have a happy and safe and sane 4th of July, and don't make our fire department work overtime, please, or our police department. And just everybody have a great holiday, and we'll see you next month. We're adjourned.